Thanks for joining me. This is today's session is on dynamic dashboards with advanced editors. And I'm really excited to be here today because last year was the first time I found out about the event and I was just an attendee. And this year I'm a presenter, so I'm feeling very lucky. This session is going to be all about Tableau CRM, Einstein Analytics, if you've heard of it, and it will assume no knowledge as well. So it's going to start from the basics. We're going to build entirely from scratch. If you're watching a recording of this on YouTube, I would suggest skip to the end quickly, have a look at the resources. You'll be able to follow along with this video as well. And even if you're already a user of analytics, and I'd love to know in the chat if people are already users of analytics, what they think of it, you'll still hopefully pick up some stuff with this advanced editor. If you're not already using it, it saved me massive amounts of time. So first off, the agenda. First, I'll just go through who am I? Who is this guy? Then we'll look at what is Tableau CRM, followed by what is the advanced editor that you're talking about here and how is it useful? Once we've gone through all that, we're going to build an example from scratch. We're going to build a brand new dashboard entirely from scratch, the whole process. So hopefully you'll pick up some interesting stuff. And then we'll have questions throughout in the chat as well. So feel free to post those. And let's get engaged in the chat. First off, who am I? I'm Matt Byrne. I'm a product manager at Financial Force. We're based on the Salesforce platform. Recently, my title was changed to product manager. Personally, I prefer MB equals PM squared. Little Einstein joke for people there. Hopefully, people got that. I'm based in the Harrogate office, which is up in the north of England. It's about 300 of us there, but we're across the globe. I spend a lot of my time playing around with the Einstein technologies on Salesforce, analytics, next best actions, discovery, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely love it. As a result, I recently became an analytics champion, which has now been rebranded, if you know about the rebrand, as a Tableau CRM ambassador. And when I'm not playing with dashboards and tinkering with data, I enjoy woodworking as well. So I make lots of like pens and chopping boards and stuff like that. Wood turning. I'm on Instagram if you're interested. Handmade Harrogate, just on there. So first off, what is Tableau CRM? Maybe some of you don't know what this is. So EdgeSpring, I mean Wave, I mean Einstein Analytics, I mean Tableau CRM is the product that keeps getting rebranded. Now, what this allows you to do is report on massive volumes of data from Salesforce and other areas with the ability to gain actionable insights. So you can take huge quantities of data. Analytics itself supports up to 10 billion records, which is just, I've seen demos of that before from Salesforce, and it's just amazing how fast it works. When you build Salesforce reports, you'll often build a report, you'll run it, and then you'll customize it, and then you'll run it again. There's none of that here. You just build it, and it's working straight away, updating straight away. There's no loading or waiting for it. The performance is amazing. This can also be embedded into different environments as well. But this is the analytics product that we'll be going through today. Now, where does the data come from with Tableau CRM? The data can come from lots of different sources. One source of the main source is that you're going to have large volumes of data. It's I heard someone say that we're in like a data, the time for data at the moment, because there's so much data being collected. I'm sure a lot of you have hundreds of thousands, or in some cases millions of records on Salesforce, and sometimes when you go to run a report, it'll say CPU timeout error. And I'm sure some of you are very familiar with that cropping up. With this, the purpose is to take large volumes of data and bring them in from Salesforce into your Tableau CRM environment. And you normally refresh the data hourly. That's normally what's recommended, using a data sync to bring that data in, transform that data as well. Sometimes, if you've been on the Salesforce platform a while, you'll be left with object structures and designs that if you did them today would be entirely different. Analytics allows you to, when the data is coming in, to transform that data and join it in different ways that the platform might not allow. That can be incredibly useful. I do lots of that kind of stuff when bringing it in. In addition, you can, in some places, report on low volumes of data if you want to report on them real time using Salesforce Direct to bring in that data. I would recommend going with the hourly refreshed approach just for volumes of data. Now, not only the Salesforce side of things, you can also report or set up a series of external data connectors as well. So you can report on areas outside of the Salesforce platform, connect them to your Tableau CRM so you can bring that data in. You can also put under there as a CSV files can also be imported into data as well. Now, there's going to be lots of demos in today's session. I'm just hoping to provide a full picture, the full life cycle of building this dashboard. So to start off with, we're going to start by importing data. So before I do that, I want to show you that if you're following along, spin up a developer edition, and following that, we're going to have some data. Now, when it comes to getting hold of data to play around with analytics, building data off your own environment might not be the most exciting. You know, finance data might not be exciting. You want to do something that's really interesting. So if you go to Kaggle.com, it's a fantastic website. They've got whole hosts of data that you can download. There's stuff around films and pizza and wine and all the rest of it. But what I've got here is a data set that's the top 10 highest grossing films from 1975 to 2018. And what it's showing me here are some of the columns that it's got on that data table. I've got the genre of the films. I've got the IMDb rating, the length in minutes, the rank for the year. It's rating the studio, of course, the film in there as well. And you can go ahead and download that data set. You might have to set up an account, it's all free. And then we can go over into our environment. Now, to access analytics, if you've not accessed it before, you have to access Analytics Studio. This is the Tableau CRM that I spoke about. And from here, we'll go through some of the different terminology in a second. But the first thing we want to do is just bring that data in. Okay, at the moment, our environment, if we go to all items, is completely blank. And I'll explain what these items are in a second. But we can go ahead and create a data set. We want to bring in some data, and we can do that with CSV files. We can connect the Salesforce data, bring that in, remember, like an hourly refresh. We can do external connectors if they're set up as well to bring that information in. We're going to do a CSV file in this case that we've just downloaded. So let's take that CSV file. Let's go across and we're going to call it, we'll call it Blockbusters because that's the name of it. And it's just going to go in my private app. I'll explain all those in a second. Now, as you're going through importing the data, whatever data source you choose, have a good play on Kaggle. As you're doing that, it's going to ask you what kind of fields are these. So this one here, main genre, is a dimension. So it's a text field. Further along, we've got the rating, which is a measure. That's a number field. You've also got date field in there as well. This is where you can make changes to how the data is represented. For example, a common one would be that year. You might not want it as a number. You might want year to be presented as a text item so that you can just click on multiple years rather than doing like a range, for instance. Okay, and we can go ahead and start uploading that data set. Now, I said I was going to explain some of the terminology. So data set, what am I referring to here? That's that data, that CSV file we've just brought in. A data set is the equivalent to a report type. So when you're creating a Salesforce report, you'll go new report, you'll choose your report type and you'll type opportunity or account. And when you do so, you'll have a huge long list of report types. And you're never 100% sure that you've clicked the right one because there's so many different objects listed in there. For me, a data set, a good data set brings all of those report types together into one. So that instead of opportunities with products with XYZ, you've got just one data set you can go to, one place to go to build all of your reports and dashboards, making everything much simpler. That's the data set side of things. On the lenses, a lens, you'll see the term for, is the same as a report. It's the term given to both charts and tables, visualizations and tables in analytics. Both of them are called lenses. Now, a dashboard, thankfully, is just a dashboard. And a dashboard is a collection of those lenses, just in the same way, and I'll keep comparing to Salesforce reporting, just in the same way with your Salesforce dashboards, you'll take multiple reports and put them on a single dashboard. That's the same idea here. Now, an app that's listed, an app is a folder. So you'll have folders for your Salesforce reports and folders for your Salesforce dashboards. The folders here, the apps, contain the dashboards, the lenses, and the data sets. They're all combined and contained within a single app. They can move around between apps in the same way, but an app is essentially a folder. A data flow is the process by which data is coming into the system. So where I mentioned hourly updates, you might want to bring your data in every hour. You might want to bring it in from Salesforce, transform it, maybe join it with an external data source, and send out a data set out of the end of it. That process, that process of running the transformations and outputting the data sets, that's the data flow. And for people that have already used analytics before, they might be familiar with the term SACL, which is the code that you can write for complex analytics. And you used to have to do this manually to write this code. The advanced editor, we will not have to write any code. It's going to do it for us, which is massive time saver. Hopefully, after that waffling, the data sets will have imported. So let's go over and have a look. An error message is completely expected. And I go to data sets, and I can see my data set I've just updated. Not sure why that error appears. You'll find the same if you're following through as well. We can open up our data set, and we can see that there are 437 records. This is the report building, the lens building, table building UI. And it's telling me over here, count of rows, how many records? 437 records. Now, what if I didn't want to see how many records there were? Well, I can click on the text, and I can choose instead to see the sum of different items, maybe the total gross worldwide in a US dollar, perhaps, or perhaps the average IMDb rating. So I can see the average rating there from the top 10 films, remember, from all those years is 7.1. Now, if this was across every single film, I'm sure the average wouldn't be 7.1. And I'm sure that list would be filled with a lot of reports, a lot of films that none of us have ever heard of and have no intention of watching. Now, this UI, I really find this UI intuitive. We've got one bar at the moment that's giving us the average of the IMDb rating. If we want to add more bars, if you want to see a bar for every single film, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a bar. And then to do that, we're just going to choose title. And now we can see the score, the IMDb score of each of those films. Remember, these are the top 10 over a couple of years. Now, Crocodile Dundee is not the most popular film based on IMDb ratings. I'm personally surprised it's in the top 10. Does anyone disagree? But if we want to sort this and we want to see the highest rated film across these, then we can go ahead and sort these. I'll just give people a second if they want to put in the chat just to guess what the top rated film might be in these top 10 over time. Just a few seconds for you. We can sort it just by clicking on the title at the top. So the top rated film we've got in here, Dark Knight, Schindler's List, Lord of the Rings, some really good films in the top here, which is why I think it's really nice if you find a good Kaggle data set that's going to work for you. Now, building and we can click it again to unsort. Now, when you're building stuff like this, you do have formatting options available on the right. If you want to change certain things, maybe the legend we can add to the bottom. We can change the way different titles are displayed. We can also go ahead and change the visualizations that we're using. If you're going to look at something that's a measure, an amount, maybe the gross worldwide, that might be nice as a donut chart. My favorite visualization is a tree map because it looks nothing like a tree. But I don't think that's a good visualization in this case. We'll stick with a bar in this case. Now, as you're building reports, the next stage is like, well, I want to add these to a dashboard. And that's where you can come in. And to add it to a dashboard, we have to snip it, take a clipping of it, and put it on the dashboard. So there's some scissors here to clip to Designer. So we can have movies by score, we'll give it a name. And when we press Click to Designer, it's going to create a new dashboard for us so that we can place this item on it. And you can see on the right, we have that movies by score listed. If you want to add it to the dashboard, we drag it on. Okay, we'll leave it a little bit of space at the top and we can drag that on there. Now it's within our dashboard. There are loads of formatting options available to dashboards. You can change the different width, for example. You can change the background color. You can even create mobile layouts on here as well. I'm not going to go into all those details because I want to focus on the advanced editor here. We've got one chart on there, but a dashboard is not one chart. A dashboard is multiple. So if we go back over to our lens, our chart that we're building, instead of seeing it by title, how about we see the most popular genres in there instead? Now we can change the visualizations, we can change the formatting exactly the same. But when it comes to adding it to the dashboard, we can type in genre by score, click to designer, go over to our dashboard, and there it is, genre by score. We can drag that on. Now what we've built here so far is a dashboard with two charts. One of them showing the film and the other one showing the genre as well. Now, the thing I absolutely love about analytics is that this will automatically become an interactive dashboard. To use a dashboard, you have to press this little preview in the top right, and we can see our dashboard with our two charts. And what if I want to see the top action films? Well, I can click on that, and it's going to show me those top action films, and I can see them listed by the score. If I want to see the top rated, here we go, history is the top rated here. Everyone loves a good war film. I watched 1917 recently. I think that was the one. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know how they shot it all in one shot. That was my thought going into it. I don't know if anyone's seen that as well. But here we can see those top history ones, and everyone loves Schindler's List and Apollo 13 for that matter as well. But I haven't done anything else. I've just taken those two reports, put them on this dashboard, and it's automatically interactive. I think that's pretty cool. You can go in and extend these. You can add items to the dashboard like filters. You can also add different images if you want to in there as well. Number measures, maybe you want to see different KPIs. But in this case, we're just going to add a simple title to our dashboard, drag that on. And we're going to make it so that instead of just saying add text, we're going to say top 10 movies. Yeah, over time, we'll say. There we go. So we'll give it a basic title there. We're just building out a basic dashboard there. Some of these will have extra formatting options. You can change the visualizations if you want to within the dashboard, and you can change the color theme in there as well. Moving back over to our slides, we haven't done anything with the advanced editor yet, but we have built a basic dashboard. So if you're not familiar with that process, that's what we've got so far. Next, we're going to move on to bindings. And this might look scary, and it is scary, but but we're not going to be writing any of this stuff, okay? Don't worry, we're not going to be writing any code in this. Bindings allow you to control the interaction over a dashboard. The interaction that we saw in this dashboard, that was when you clicked over on drama, it showed you the drama films, okay? This is set in by automatically, but what if you want to control that? What if you want to click on something and send it somewhere else? Common examples of reasons that I do it and others do it is populating subtitles, for instance. You might want the title to reflect what you're actually looking at now. You might want to have predefined lists that are created so that you can say, right, I want to pick this value and I want another chart to reflect the value that I have selected. We're going to do a little bit of that later on. You can also enable faceting between different data sets. In our case, we've chosen a single data set to report on that information. You could have multiple data sets. We have the movie one in the same dashboard. And it also controls the dynamic charting options, which is what we're going to look at as well. Now, the advanced editor means that we don't have to write code. We used to have to, but not anymore. This advanced editor allows you to, first it displays the code, and then it allows you to choose the different reports, different lenses that you want to interrogate and get the value from, and it will build up over here the code that you'll use. Not only that, it'll give you a preview of what it's going to look like when you've applied it as well. So this, for me, has saved me so much time. It's unbelievable. So let's have a quick look at creating some dynamic subtitles. If we edit this dashboard, at the moment, we have it so that you can click on a genre and it's going to filter the items over there. What might be nice is when we click on a genre, that the title gets updated with that genre. Okay, so if we edit this dashboard, to access the advanced editor, you need to just click on any item of your dashboard. Okay, we want to update this title, so we're going to click on that title. And then in the top right, we have the advanced editor, and we can click on that button. Now, this might look scary to some people that don't like to look at code, but really, if you have a good look at it, it's not too complex. This is saying top 10 movies over time. That's the text that we had there. This is the text alignment, the color, the font size. This stuff's not too difficult if you just have a little look at it and don't get too scared. Now, we want to make it so that the genre that we selected is going to appear in that title. So maybe we'll just put a little dash and then list the genre. Over on the left, we get to choose from the lenses that we've added. And we have added genre by score. That was one of the second one that we added. We can then have either the result or the selection. So the result is what is there. The selection is what have they clicked on. We'll just start by having a look at the results so I can explain some of the concepts. This then allows us to choose between a cell, a column, and a row. Behind every single report that you have, a lens that you have, you will have a table. Okay, there's going to be a table behind everything. You might not be able to see it in different places, but in that table, you're going to have cells. Cells are just the position. Think of Excel. B2 is one down, one across in Excel. You have rows. You'll have a number of different rows in there as well. If I go back to cell, sorry, I'll choose the first row. When it comes to code, 0 is always the first line. So the very first line in the data that we've got, and in the column of main genre, the first one is action. Okay. The second one listed is adventure. It's in alphabetical order at the moment. We might not want to see the genre. We might want to see the rating as well. And you can see this preview being updated over here. So that's the average rating. There's the action. There's the adventure, and we can work through this. But this is showing us the different items. When you switch between cells, columns, and rows, if we chose row, for instance, and we'll choose the first row, we can also choose all rows. I'll show that in a second. We can choose the columns, and we can choose main genre again. Notice that the output is slightly different. There are different use cases for using each of these, and it will depend where you want to insert the code. But now it has square brackets around it. Okay. We can have the rating in there as well. We can have both of them in this case. Okay. We can also, if I switch back to genre, instead of just one row, we can have all of them. So it's getting all of that information if we wanted it in there. The final one is columns. We can just choose a column and it's going to return all of the values within that data. Now, this is because it's the results at the moment. If we went back and changed it to be the selection, this is what the user has clicked on, okay? But what if they click on nothing? There are more options under here, okay? Because at the moment, we haven't selected anything. It'll only be once we start to use a dashboard, we'll select something. We can set a default value, okay? You can put the text in there and it will populate and create the code for you over here. You don't even have to look at that code. You can provide a default value if you want. Look, if you put 1, 2, 3, you can see it starting to populate in that code. We're just going to leave it as blank for now. The serialization functions, these are different places you want to put them, but this is getting quite advanced, so I wouldn't suggest having a look there once you're starting to do really complex items. It's not needed, in my opinion. Now that we've chosen selection, we can go over and we want to see the first selection they pick. If they click on something, it's going to have a table with just one line. So we'll have the very first line, and then we'll have the main genre that they have selected. Okay, this is going into that genre by score, finding the first cell, the first row, and finding the column for main genre to see what have they clicked on. And remember, we've set a default value of nothing. This has created an example of nothing because there is nothing selected at the moment. We can copy this code and we can just paste it in to the place where you want it to be inserted. In this case, we can see the text. So we'll paste in that text. It's always better to use the copy button than the paste because it will format in the correct way. Once that's done, we can save it. Now, at the moment, it's not doing anything. Nothing's displayed there because we haven't picked anything yet. And we set the default to be nothing, so that's expected. If we click on comedy, it's now populated in the title comedy, history, drama. This is now becoming even more interactive than it was when we started off. Okay, I think that's starting to get pretty cool. We didn't have to learn any code to do any of that either. It's generated the code for us. I had great difficulty writing the code when I was doing Sacco. It was very much trial and error and seeing if it would break every time. So that's adding subtitles. But what if we want to go a step further and we want to make things a little bit more dynamic based on user selection? That's going to involve the creation of custom queries. Now, what are custom queries? A custom query is a table that we have created. You can see on this little image on the right, it's the start of a table. We can define all the values in that table. And if we define a display, the user can click on that, and it's going to have some corresponding values in the other columns. This is commonly used when you want to create lists, user-defined lists to provide different values. You can have up to 20 columns as well. If we want to have a little picker that allows us to choose from the different items, this is the approach that we're going to have to do there. So in order to create a list, and the reason for creating the list is at the moment, this chart is currently by main genre. But what if I want to have another chart that is by genre 2 or studio? I don't want to end up with a dashboard that's got a dozen different charts on it. So to make it nice and easy, we're going to make it so that this chart here is interactive based on the user selection. And that's why we need to create a custom query to define what those selections will be. If we edit this dashboard, we need to create a custom query. Now we can create queries off of our data set we've already got, but we need to choose to create a query here. You can see that there's a Salesforce Direct option from here, which allows you to report on real-time data at lower volumes. And we can choose the data sets in our environment, but down here, we need to create a custom query. And now we can start defining our table. So I'm going to call it dimension selector. Because we're going to let them choose different dimensions. Now over here, we can define the values, like main genre might be the first choice. But that's not going to correspond to the data set. And that's why we can add columns. We can add columns for text items, for numbers if you want them as well. We might do different calculations with these things. This might be a multiplier, for instance, on your dashboard. We can also choose data set values as well. We're going to provide the user's ability to select dimensions. So we want to link up our data set. It's called dimension 2. We can rename that if we want to. We can then add the dimension that we want. So to start off with, well, that's main genre. So we'll add main genre, and it's entered the code form of it. We can then have maybe genre 2, genre 3. How about studio in there? And why not? Let's have a title in there as well. So, and we can go ahead and just name how they're going to display for the users in those as well. So we'll put genre 3 and genre 2. Okay, so we've created our table. We can define up to 20 columns on this. They're all going to do different items, which we'll soon see. And we can press done. It's now got our little select over here. Now you can interact with dashboards in different ways. You can have lists. But in this case, I think they're quite fun. We'll have a toggle. So if I drag a toggle on, this toggle needs to know what to toggle. So we're going to toggle some of our dimension selectors. I'll drag this on to the toggle. And this here now, if I go into my preview, it allows me to interact with it. Okay. Now, if this was going to let me choose which of these items is used in this dashboard, then really I need to make sure that one is always picked. Otherwise, nothing's going to be there. If I go into my edit mode and I click on that toggle in the same way that I would click on a chart, over on the right, you've got a query option. This query option allows you to set what type of selection is available. Single selection, multi-selection, or required. So we can force the selection of that, which means that we can go through the different values. It's always going to make it so we have to have one selected. Now that one's selected, we want to pass this into this dashboard. We want to say if they pick main genre, shows main genre. If they click studio, shows studio. So to do that, we're going to use the advanced editor. We'll go to the advanced editor option over here. This is going to have a bit more code involved because there's a bit more formatting involved with a chart. But what we want to keep an eye out is for where there's like main genre listed. Now, the information that's generated here is over in the query. And if you scroll through here in the query tab, you'll be able to see, and this could be scary for some people, where different items like main genre and the average IMDb rating are listed. The area we want to look for is related to data sets. There we go, followed by the data set, and we can see the measure, average IMDb rating, and the group main genre. If we go over on the left and we choose our dimension selector, we're going to do the same thing. We want to make it so that what the user has selected, so we'll make it a selection. We'll go over and then choose the data. They've made a selection. They can only make one selection. So we'll choose the first that's available. And then we'll choose to display. If we chose the display option, you can see it's going to generate main genre. If we chose dimension 2, it's generating the code that's needed for it to work. And you can see that matches up with the groupings up here. Remember, this is only a single selection, so we can only choose one option. There's not going to be a second row in this data. So there's our main genre. We just want to copy that and put it in the grouping. Okay, we can paste that in, replace what it was over there. If we save this, it's not going to work. I'm going to say that ahead of time. People think, he's done it wrong. It looks like it's working. If we go to the interaction, we click genre 2, there's an error, and that error is related to something called column map. And you'll see that if we hover over it. Column maps cannot be bound to with the advanced editor. If we click on our chart again and go to the advanced editor and we have a look, it's normally the bottom for column map. This is still listing main genre, but it changed to genre 2. This can't be updated. So what do you do if you can't update something? You delete it. So we find the column map and we click a little drop down on the left. This is the easiest way to collapse it. And we can just simply highlight it and delete it off. Okay, you might have to add another comma in some places if there's an error message, but we can do it on the widget and go over to the query. We can find to see if column map is listed in here as well. And if it is, there we go, there it is. We can remove that too. So we click that little drop down at the end, it will collapse it and we can delete it off. And if we press save now and go to our preview, we can see that the genre is updating that dashboard. That dashboard is dynamic now. So this chart is no longer one chart, it's 5 charts. And the best thing, it's still interactive with this chart over here. Eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that it's not interacting with the title. That's something I'll cover at the end. Now, we've done it for the genre. Let's go one step further and let's do it for the number as well. Maybe we don't always want to see the average IMDb rating. So we're going to add another custom query, create custom query. We're going to have this one as the measures selector. And we're going to add a column for our measures from the data set. And we're going to want a couple. At the moment, we have the average of the IMDb rating. We might also want maybe the sum of the gross. And how about as well the average length of the film as well. So we can give those a name, length, gross. I'll put rating in there as well. These don't have to match up. You can call them whatever you like. If we press done there, we've now added another static query, custom query. They've been renamed a couple of times as well as the product itself. And let's go ahead on the left. We'll add another toggle to our dashboard. We'll put it just above, and we'll put that measure selector. Related to this, we can then make it so that it's a single selection required. So we'll click on it. You might have to click off in different places. Go to single selection required. And then we need to make it so that this communicates with this. And we're going to do it with, again, the advanced editor. If we go to the advanced editor, this is going to be the third or fourth time we've been here now. We're going to choose our query, the measure selector. This is going to be what they have selected. That's what we're interested in. We're going to choose what they've selected. It's going to be the first one down. We're going to use sell a lot. If you are using SACL code, you might use some of the other options. And we're going to choose the column. Because it's a measure field, we've got a couple to choose from. We can choose the function, which is average in this case. We can also choose the field, which is IMDb rating. So we're just going to go through our code because we know that's what's been used in our chart because we built it, and look for the average IMDb rating so that we can replace it. We can ignore a lot of this. We want to wait until we get to this dataset start. Remember, we've already deleted the column map, so we don't have to do that again. There's our IMDb rating. So we're going to copy the code that's generated the same value, placed it in. We'll do the same thing for the function as well. We'll copy that and we'll paste it in for the average, and that's replaced those as well. Now when we go into the preview, this is the exciting part. Everyone excited? When we click on gross, it's now updated to give the total amount of revenue. When we click on title, it's now going to give us which films have generated the most. Look at that for Avatar. I think Endgame would be in there if this was closer up to date. But what we have now is a chart that is no longer one chart, it's 15 charts, okay? We're making our dashboards much more intelligent. We've not had to write any code to do that. It's generated it for us in what I think is quite a simple way. The final part would be to update this text, but I'm going to leave that as a homework exercise, if you like, for people that are interested in it. That is called nested bindings. And the reason it doesn't work, just to show you, is if I go to the advanced editor again, in the code, it has actually listed the main genre, but now it's not always the main genre. Sometimes it's title or genre 2 and so on. So that's updating that is called nested bindings. And if you are interested in doing that, if we go over to the slides, I've got some resources for you, links to request a developer environment, the data set that I've used. Feel free to choose your own. Nested bindings, if you do want that homework challenge, you can get it working. And then, of course, there's loads of materials on Trailhead as well. I'm hoping that we've had lots of questions throughout. I hope people have picked up a few things there, depending on your level of skill. Hopefully there's been like, oh, it's providing a lot of options, even in terms of now I can build much more dynamic dashboards. When someone says, I want to see this chart on there as well, don't just add. Have one that becomes multiple charts. And it really allows you to make beautiful looking dashboards where users can choose what they see. I think that's pretty cool. And I'll just finish by saying thank you to London's Calling for having me. Again, I hope everyone enjoyed it, and thanks to the sponsors of this year's events on there as well.